Hey YouTubers, it's naturally me, Smooches. How are you? I'm actually going to talk about a subject that usually always comes up in conversation somehow, one way or another, and that's single moms raising boys. Now, my first boy is 15 years old, and I raised him as a single mother. And I have a second boy who's 4 years old, and I'm married to his father. So, but meanwhile, as a single mother, as a woman, you raise your sons the best that you can, but there's going to be to a point that they need a man in their life. Now, when I raised my son, he never met anybody I date or anything like that. I wasn't subjecting him to an environment like that because, it's bad enough that his father wasn't around, and he did make his appearances like every so often, but basically he was never really around, and I didn't want to subject my son to a whole bunch of different men, and then he would grow attached to them or something like that, and if the relationship didn't work out, unfortunately, any relationship you're in is going to involve your child if you have introduced your child to that person. I mean, I made a mistake once of doing it, and I guess because of that, I learned my lesson. And I know my son grew attached to someone, and it didn't work out. And when it ended the relationship, whatever the guy and my son had. So from that one experience, I definitely never, ever, 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 ever introduced my son to anyone I was dating. In fact, the first 5 years of my son's life was just all about me and my son. He went everywhere I went. If there was parties, barbecues, or whatever, my son was with me. If I couldn't bring my son, I wasn't going. Me and my son grew to have a very special bond. For his 5 years, I was like, I'm stopping, my social life and everything. I'm going to focus on my son, make sure that he's being taken care of properly and taken right, and that I'm the one that's doing it. And then when I'm ready to have my life, my social life, that I already had him prepared to be able to what is the word I'm saying? To be able to socialize with other people when I'm not there. And everyone used to love to babysit my son and everything like that. He was a wonderful kid and still is a wonderful kid. And there is the point that basically if you do decide to bring a man into the home, that it should be with someone that you really planning on having a long-term relationship with, because it can cause problems in the home. And if your sons are used to being the man of the house, which they see themselves in a way, you led them to believe that because they're the male of the house. And basically, I remember when I first met my husband, my son was about 9 years old, and their relationship was a good relationship, but when it came down to disciplining, it was kind of rough. And it's a known fact that if you do not have a man in your child's life before he's 7, and you're the only sole disciplinary for that child, then you have to remain the disciplinarian. You can't bring someone in the household out of the blue and start having them discipline your child, because it's not going to work. All the child is going to do is be more defensive against the man that is trying to take over his turf. Because I remember when my husband moved in, and I made a comment that he was the man of the house. My son was like, "Well, mommy, you always told me I was the man of the house." So you got to really be careful what you say to your children, what you lead them to believe, because it's going to bite you back in the butt. So, I did in the beginning try to give my husband the authority to discipline Jordan, but it was causing problems, and I knew that it wasn't a good idea, that I think I better keep in charge of that, because that just causes problems, and that's what causes problems in the home between a stepfather and his stepson. So I think because I continue on being a disciplinarian, they have a better relationship than when he first was involved in my son's life. So, as a woman, you teach them to be respectful, you teach them about hygiene, you teach them about behavior and everything like that. But there is going to be a point when they're old enough, basically when they're reaching their teen years, that they need to have some kind of father figure in their lives. Now, if it isn't working out with your son and your husband or your significant other, then there's other people in their lives that could be that father figure, that mentor type person that he needs to show him how to be a man. Because a woman can show a boy how to be a man to a point. She can show the aspects of how to treat a woman and stuff like that. But as to the thinking of a man, why you do stuff because you're a male, a woman really can't explain too much of that. It's not in the head of a woman to know exactly what a man is. So a boy needs that. So I've been lucky enough that even though my husband and my son have a good relationship, they don't really have that close bond because in the beginning there were a little friction with them because Jordan, my son, because Jordan was defensive when I met my husband. So, but I think I fixed that myself by always being the middle person. So we never really had that bigger as it got older and everything like that. Jordan gives my husband respect, and my husband gives Jordan's respect, but I still run the show in the house. But Jordan does have a great male role model that has always been there for him. At least not always been there for him, but he has had male figures in his life that's been pretty positive in his life and to show him the ropes. But the last, I would say about 6 years, we came across a gentleman that has been wonderful to him and has treated him like he's part of the family and has showed him the guidance that he needs to be a man. And I am so thankful for this person. My son is so well-rounded because of this person and because of course, because of me, because of his mother. And it's just wonderful to have someone like that. So I really suggest that when you're meeting men and you have sons, don't bring them in their lives unless you know this is going to be a long-term relationship, or unless you know that you're going to marry this person or whatever, so be it. But don't bring it just because you're dating somebody. That doesn't mean that they have to meet everybody that you date. You're not going to even really stay with that long with most of the people you're dating anyway, so why even bring it to that? Why bring that friction in? Oh, God forbid, please do not let a man discipline your child, especially after the age of 7 years old, because your kid is already set on how everything goes, and it's just a disruption for them when you bring someone in to do the disciplining side of it. If you're the disciplinarian, you don't need help from somebody to discipline your child if you've been doing that. And it's just a very negative impact on a boy for a man to just walk in the house and all of a sudden he's running the show. It can't work like that. You're going to have a lot of tension in the home because of that. So if you just remain the strong disciplinarian in the house like you've always been before this man came into your life, then you should remain that. There's a certain age that a child reaches that you cannot throw someone else in the mix to take control. You have to continue that control until there's just going to be turmoil in the home. So I just had that on my head, and I just wanted to share that and see what your thoughts is on this. But I do have a 4-year-old that I'm raising with his father. His